ko tūhono mai marunga I tēnei pāpāho matora. E kore kāre ārika ngā mihi kia koutou tuatahi rā tēnei pakihi o HTK, ko koutou rā e whakarangati rāna I ngā neke o te pakihi I roto I tēnei ao tūro o tātou. I roto I wēnei Māori wēnei ki rā he mahi hou tēnei, engari mea ka hoki ngā mahara ki o tātou nei tīpuna, ko te mahi o te pakihi, he mahi I roto I o tātou nei hītori, I roto I o tātou nei whakapapa, nā reira kia koutou rā ngai Māori huri noa, ia nutirini ana tētahi wāhi, kia whakakaurera I tātou, I roto I wēnei wā uaua, I roto I wēnei wā uaua kaitua I a tātou. O tira, e whakatepe I tēnei mihi kia koutou I tēnei pō, ko tāku kia whakatepe I te whakatauki he pai rangi tahi. Nā mā koe whakamārama I rā o ngā whakamahuki kia koutou a ko ake nei. Tuatahi rā ngā mihi kia koutou, my name's Krystal Edwards, as we mentioned, but also you hear another ingoa called Kiino. And Kiino basically is, I guess, my alter ego that I take out onto the stage or put out onto the screen. And for us who are high profile, I would say, it's good to have a bit of a alter ego that we can put out the front so that we can keep some sort of our own privacy to ourselves as well. So ko Kiino Krystal, te tangata e tuana ki ngā papatū waiwai. So Kiino Krystal is the lady that takes the stage, but Krystal Edwards is the beautiful wahine that comes from Ngāti Kahungunu, te aitanga māhaki, nā reira, tēnā no tātou katoa. Yes, it's a privilege and an honour to be manuhiri. I had participated in these huihuinga during actually our recent lockdown, and yeah, found some good value out of it, especially listening to those in experience. Vaughan, I must say, you are one of my personal favourites. I enjoy listening to you because you give practical kōrero that we can actually put into action within the day or within the hour that you share your advice. So tēnā koe, Vaughan. And as for that pātai, okay, I'll be bracing myself e hoa. O tira kia koe, Pete, I've also enjoyed your kōrero too that you bring to the table around pakihi, around business as well. Hoi anō, e aro ki tō e aro atu tātou ki tō whaenga Reo Māori. Well, kia kaha e hoa. I always say Te Reo Māori is only just a click away now these days. Our fortune is that kei konei te ao Māori, and it's just a tap away. O tira ki te kaupapa, I'll give you a little bit of a backstory on my neke within the business world. But before I became I guess, I'm still saying an amateur at the game, but I actually spent 10 years of my life, and it was my late teens and my early 20s working in the freezing works. The ambition to go into, of course, mahi was put on hold for a bit. So I had a bit of a 10-year break. However, during that time, my Te Reo Māori was still fluid. I was very fortunate to work along some kaumātua, and that, trust me, there's some relation to this later on, e hoa ma. Well, there was a day at the freezing works where I thought, oh, you know what? I think it's time for me to take a hold of my own destiny. And so I did. I wrapped up and went back to EIT and completed, of course, first up, my degree in Te Reo Māori, and then I transitioned over to broadcasting, which has been always my passion to be a part of the entertainment industry, whether it be in front of the camera, behind the camera. I didn't care where it was going to be, but I wanted to learn both, not just in front, but also behind the scenes. So I also did my diploma at EIT. So I did about a 4-year study, and I actually gave up full-time work. I made sure that I was financially secure. So I had a freehold house, and everything like that, no bills, and was free at, I think I was about 23, 24 at the time. And it also helped too that I had a little bit of a health scare as well. So I guess a few things were happening in my mid-20s at that time to say you need to get out of the work skill and start making something of your life. And so we did, and yeah, I was very fortunate enough to land a job at Radio Kahungunu, and that was the dream for me at the time, e hoa ma. As a young girl, being brought up in a very Māori predominantly led whānau, yeah, seeing the kuia of the time when Radio Kahungunu used to be based at EIT, that was me. I didn't desire to be a te karere woman or a te ao person, even though Tini Molyneux, she was very influential then. yeah, I saw that working alongside our kaumātua and also our rangatahi and pakeke in one hub was something, to behold. So that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to get to Radio Kahungunu. Well, I got there, and I got there in 2012. And when I arrived there, I thought, oh man, I've made it. This is it, whānau. I'm living the dream. And I really was. I truly, truly was. Being on that mic, owning your show, creating every day, finding content, promoting my iwi, promoting my people. It was fantastic. And that was, I guess, like the first 5 years of it. It was great. Everything was just awesome, positive vibes. And then there was a little bit of a lull. Okay, a little bit of a lull, and basically it's I guess it's with any stigma around when you're in a place too long, sometimes you just need to either make the decision: do I stay or do I go? That's where I was sort of at after 5 years at Radio Kahungunu. And so I tried for another 5 years to ignite some kind of something in that station. We didn't share the same vision, let's just put it out like that. So I had to make a solid decision, and when I made that decision, I was also in a time of doubt, and I felt like a midlife crisis, because I started to actually doubt, like, oh, did I choose the right career pathway? What do I do now? Broadcasting and entertainment was where I wanted to be. Well, during that time, a beautiful man named Te Rangi Huata, who worked at Ngāti Kahungunu Iwi Incorporated, happened to enjoy my show on Radio Kahungunu. And then, of course, that's how I started to get into what at the time I would say would just be my emceeing mahi. And so I started doing just the local matariki celebrations here in Kahungunu. And it started from there, and then from the matariki, we went into the kapahaka zone, and then from the kapahaka, it just grew, basically. And then we had more than just the iwi reaching out to us. We had the Hawke's Bay Tourism whānau reaching out, Hawke's Bay Business Awards reaching out, and then it started to turn into a national thing. Then we had Te Matatini, and then the National Waiata Māori Music Awards, and then we started going into the social events of Māori housing conferencing, and it became huge, e wāma, absolutely huge. And so I thought, oh well, anei taku ao, this is what I will follow and proceed and sort of look into. However, then we came across like this little thing of, oh no, the financial inconsistency of it all. I could have a booming month and have possibly 6 to 7 events, and then the following month, nothing. Quiet as crickets, crickets. And so I was like, oh no, this is no good. I need financial consistency. So what do I do now? But that was the fortune of being, I guess, at Radio Kahungunu, because of the network that I had built, being a iwi broadcaster. I didn't just sort of stay in the rangatahi zone where my show was. I brought in all the way out, from our runangas to our PSGs, all the way through to our tai whenua, social, whatever. Anything that had basically a Māori logo on it or a Māori name, I was in that office going, oh, hey, you want to come on the radio station? So because of that, I just sort of reached out to all of the network, and then through that, I tell you what, the blessings that came through was just unbelievable. And so from all my emceeing, I used to get paid in koha. And then good old Inland Revenue got a hold of me and was like, oh, hey, you owe us some money. I was sort of getting back at them going, hell no, I don't owe you money. This is koha. Koha has no tax on it, man. Hoia no, when you're getting paid, I guess, around the four-figure area, you've got to pay tax. And I was like, damn, I thought I had it in the bag. So because I had to look at this IRD thing, I was doing like the 103 forms, or I-103 forms at the time, and those became hoha, and I was like, oh, where do we go to from now? So my first journey into business was in partnership with a lovely man named Meihana Watson, and we started Araro Productions. And the whakaaro around that business in particular was that we saw a need for live streaming to happen within our iwi, because it was such a huge demand, but none of our Māori events really had the budgets or the capacity really to make these live streams happen. So we saw the need and we thought, well, this is something that we can provide them. We went for about a year. However, being a typical Māori, and especially at an iwi level, you're like a wheke whānau, an octopus. You've got all your tentacles and all these pies and all these doors. I tell you what, you get a bit stretched. So Meihana and I admitted to each other that, hey, we've got our fingers in too many pies. We may need to close this business down and look somewhere else. So that's what we did. We wrapped up that business. I was quite gutted with it. However, that was a good learning curve because for me, for that one, e whāma was partnership. I'll own my own business. We'll go solo this time. And so at that time, I didn't know too much about business. And the only thing that I knew at the time that would help me know a lot more about business was, which was kind of promoted everywhere, is educate yourself, So sign up on a course. And that's what I did with Te Wānanga o Aotearoa. And I started with a money management course, and that taught you all around, the finances. And then as I started to graduate into the certificate for business and then certificate for project management, well, I'm sort of talking to you like I'm doing an announcement. Well, this is what happened. Anyway, sorry. So what happened was I learned some stuff, like, don't get me wrong, you learn about SWOT and you learn about SMART steps and all of that. And I enjoyed those because those were practical things that I could implement into my business. Learning about a lean canvas, things like that. Those were real great learning curves for me. However, while I was learning, I found that I got into this bit of a muck of being, which I've written, kaupapa driven, but business restricted, if that makes a bit, I don't know. Well, that's how I saw it. My kaupapa was there. I just wanted to MC and I didn't really care how I got the jobs or anything, but the business was restricting me from making me make, I guess, better choices or a strategic choice into it. So I was dealing with all of that. Also at the same time, I was saying, I want to do this, and this in my business, which were so many streams. Like, no, you can't do that. So once again, frustration started falling in. I was like, oh, gee, this business bloody work is hard and very frustrating and te mea. So I did 2 years of that because I believed that, you got to have your tickets in life. So I done all that, and then once I done that, I started Kiino Comms Limited, and that's my current business that I've got now, e whāma. And believe it or not, I actually launched last year during our first lockdown in the month of May. So on May the 1st, I launched Kiino Comms Limited. Online, we were in the heart of lockdown. So went online, everything just went hard. And the business was an online radio station. And I did about a good solid 8 months at it. But then what I had noticed is that because I was running that radio station, I was still emceeing at the same time. I was still dipping into comms with other pakihi, helping them out with the comms areas, and also helping other small businesses with strategizing around online marketing and advertising. I was stretched. So my business started to fall by the waistline. I was actually putting my business second. So yeah, got a strap on the hands for that one there. And then I got into this rut and I was like, well, where do I go? And then believe it or not, I hate to say this, but HTK came to the rescue. And with HTK coming to the rescue, I was quite fortunate because I don't know if you know this guy, Renata Hakiwai, some paramount chief from the Kahungunu, I think. But we've actually got a relationship from back in our primary days and wharekura days. He went to Te Reo and I went to Ngāti and the kuras were on the same campus or same premises. And so that's how we knew each other from then. So when I met him now, as a mature adult, and his mentoring and what he offered through HTK was actually much more beneficial, much more enlightening for me. It gave me like this whole new buzz, this whole new go for business again, because I was about to throw in the towel. I was like, I was about, business is just not my game, man. But so I thank Renata and the HTK whānau for that. And so and this was all during lockdown, believe it or not, funny, we're coming out of lockdown now. And so when Renata came to the rescue with the HTK and all the mentoring that he had offered at that time, it helped me recreate and rebrand myself as Kiino. just Kiino, but still under the Kiino Comms Limited banner. And so now I'm honing in my skills as an MC, a Master of Ceremonies and online host. And through that now I have, it's bloomed. Unfortunately, thank you for bringing up COVID there, Vaughan. Yes, COVID struck and it was a bloody hindrance. It's a hindrance to my business, e wāma, huge hindrance, because, well, with most of emceeing and hosting gigs, it's the live. So when COVID hits, that's over. You know, I'm fortunate if the events may want to go virtual. This year, I've only managed to hit that twice. So just in the month of September, instead of, say, making 14K, I only came in with 7, you know. So this is like the financial sacrifice, you know, that we had to, because of what COVID had hit. So with that going down, I was like, dumb. But fortunately, because of my taha Māori, so once again, I'm not 100% business orientated. I still have a, what we say, I guess, a bit of a weekly job, and that's teaching at EIT Te Reo Māori. But Te Ao Māori is always going to forever be with me, whichever way, and I'm going to bring it with me, because koina tōku ao, I tipu au I tōku ao Māori, tupu au hoki i te reo, nā reira, e kore tōku reo e memeha atu iau. I'll never let it stray from me. So I thank EIT for that. And through EIT, once again, I'm not a teacher. Like I said, I'm an entertainer, and that's how I teach my class, entertainingly. So it's very unorthodox. We do a lot of engaging games and activities. Hoia no, I had noticed that the struggle with some of our ākongas, that they want to speak, but they don't have many rauemi resources to get them there. And the best rauemi that I knew at the time was Te Amorangi, but of course we like to spoil our students. And so without me realizing it, I've actually stumbled upon this fantastic product that helps teach our new or beginners at Te Reo Māori, fluent speakers in Te Reo Māori, reading the language in English, Te Reo, and also phonetically. And I think I'll just leave it at that, because I don't want to be giving too much of my goods out there, because one of you might just steal my idea. But so that's actually the product I'm currently working with. And so to bring you right up to my current day now, is I'm now being mentored. Also, always HTK will always be there, because now we are now more than just mentors and mentorees. We're now partners in crime and in mahi. So I've been having the honour to host and MC and facilitate alongside the PNP whānau, which is Programming Māori Potential, which is a fantastic rangatahi kaupapa. But I'm also on a 10-week mentoring program with Kurawaka, with Teresa Carter or Teresa O'Brien, and Sally Crown's Tipuaki Tonu kaupapa for Māori women who want to aspire into business. So I'm currently on that. We're actually on week 4 this week. And this week, our po that we're learning this week around business, just to share with you, to show you how real I am about this, is that we are going to be woke to business adversity. So that's going to be our class for this week. So I look forward to that. So yeah, and that's where I'm going to build my product through Kurawaka and through that 10-week business mentorship, because it needs to be fast-paced. I want this to happen, and I want it to happen real soon because of COVID, because of that. So because of COVID and restricting me in my emceeing business, I thought of another stream that can come under Kindle Comms, complementing my taha Māori, which is that creating a resource to teach whānau at home, in the comforts of their home, or even in the schools, wherever it can be used anywhere. To learn Te Reo Māori. So that's where I'm currently at, e wāma. So koina aku neke I roto I tēnei mahi Pākehē. So that's what I am currently up to. Like I said, this has been 2 years of it. And it's been pretty full on, but I wouldn't change it for the world, e wāma. And this is only just one area. I've got heaps of other ideas that I'd love to work on. But we're just sort of tackling them just one at a time at the moment. So yeah, koina aku kōrero kia koutou I tēnei wā, tēnā tātou.
Pai ana Kino, pai ana ki te rongo. Pai ana te kuini o te koha me tau tirohanga ki te, tini moriunu o tēnā pēr Kāori. Kāori tērā āhua pai ana ki au, me tō mō hione ai. Yeah. Te hara koe ko tini moriunu. I think you've touched on some massive subjects like in the journey. Like there's always these ups and downs, and there's always reinvention moments. And so you can see you've been a master at the reinvention, which is okay. I've got to reinvent myself out of rangatahi radio, and I've got to now think about how I can use all my skill sets, my strength in the reo, some one of my superpowers, but also try and slowly work my way into the world of business. And Māori business is probably one of the hardest industries to get into because we are very close. We like to work with people we know, that the community is deeply steeped in who we are, our parents, our grandparents. So they know us before we even walk in the room. So to build up those networks over the years takes an incredible amount of effort. I mean, it's one of those unspoken things. And then you had this experience of being in partnership and the difficulties of actually what it takes to be good partners and actually make a business work and to go without and sort of and come to the conclusion, okay, maybe that's not what I need to be right now, and I might need to build that up. And so it was good to hear about that experience of partnership. And then you sort of came back to this. I had this tension of being kaupapa driven, but kind of also restricted because all the business sort of skills and things that I was learning was telling me to specialize, but actually I had an array of tools that I could offer, and it was somewhat limiting. So I think this is an important subject, right? Because it's actually quite helpful to have different choices and different options where you don't get stuck. Like, for example, in COVID, where, okay, people are not meeting face to face. I actually need to quickly, use one of my abilities to stay in the game. And so this idea of specialization is kind of a simplified idea, isn't it? It's like a simplified idea, which is, it works okay if you're producing 60 ton of feed-gels, but I'm not a feed-gel grower. I'm actually I'm a people's person. And if I listen to the people are asking for this and this. And so as long as I don't overcompensate in one area, then potentially I can still, still create opportunities without, exhausting, everything that I've got. So I think that subject's quite important because if you are an SME, the ability to go 2 or 3 ways is so important right now, and will always be important. It's not something that ever goes away, and we shouldn't almost confuse ourselves with being a large business, that can, always just kind of hold the ground come hell or high water. Actually, that's not really the true reality of things. And so the observations now, when you're kind of thinking about your role emceeing, and it is a massive role, and there's probably only 3 or 4 Māori in New Zealand that actually can do the same standard as what you do, and how you're seeing that, like, you could be sort of almost sort of just thought of as Ngāti Kahungunu, and how you've been thinking about that. Like, how do you make sure you don't get stereotyped as just the Ngāti Kahungunu Emcee, and what's been going on there for you?
Yeah, well, see, funny you mentioned that too, Jason. See, because personally for me, like I said earlier, I had no really huge desire to look nationally. I've always been a home girl. I've always believed in the fact that here in Kahungunu in particular, there's so much potential here to start, to keep yourself in the game. And like I said, I guess I never saw business as a wider than that. Otira, because here in Kahungunu, we do have a lot of national gigs that come this way. Well, it's been my fortune that because of the profile that I've put out there as a MC, it's allowed me to participate in these national events. Hoi anō, now that I have been embarking and actually taking business much more serious and making business and kaupapa meet, I think that's been the biggest learning curve that I've come across this year on finding how kaupapa and business meets. And really, just to share with you all now, it comes down to your self assessment, really. You know, where are you setting your values? Where are you setting your business values? And do those two things meet? You know, it's making your kaupapa and business values, you know, era uara, era mātāpono meet as one, so that what you're doing in your business line is actually your passion as well, so that we're not looking at it as business, we're just looking at it as life. This is what I wake up to, you know. So it's just been, and I do state that on my website, e te whānau. I've got a flash website.
It's a great website too, huh?
Krystal.com, go check it out. And said in there that, you know, Ngāti Kahungunu is the cornerstone of my success, and it'll always remain that way. And if I do go beyond that, well then, you know, koina te tahimea I waimarie iau.
Yeah, it's a really important word, that uara, you know, almost the tuara. What is the value? What is your backbone? And it's clearly at home there in Kahungunu. But also at the same time, you can see you have that voice and vibe that's actually extends beyond the mataua Māori. It extends beyond Kahungunu, and it resonates a lot further. And there are moments where you may have to decide, you know, where that next chapter is. And it may be really hard because of the uncertainty and the fact that you know how long it takes to grow that kind of voice in the rohe, you know, and so just sort of circle that as maybe one of the next long maunga for Krystal in the future. I think the second thing is the online. So this is an uncharted territory for Māori emceeing, for actually hosting, like this opportunity of emceeing online. How are you thinking about that, and what are you seeing in terms of how you might go about that now that we've had COVID?
Tēnā koe, pātai pai tērā. Just actually recently, as previously mentioned too, I've just actually done a virtual adventure that was with the National Waiata Māori Music Awards. Fantastic.
That was badass.
Oh yeah, no, and it was great vibe. I kind of like that type of mahi, because believe it or not, it wasn't live. We'd pre-recorded it, so that's but the illusion was out there to make you feel like it was recorded live. And I guess those are some of the benefits of where my diploma and where my studies back at UIT had come forth, you know, so we know how the ins and outs of that goes. But I guess for me personally, that's really out of my control. I do have, like you say, the skill sets to make that happen. I have the gear here within I've got my own little studio here, so I can make it happen. However, I don't have the power in that. That always is left back with the organizer of the event. A prime example, once again, is with our PMP kaupapa that we had in September. Again, we were scheduled to have the Wanganui wānanga. We were also scheduled to have the Hamilton wānanga. Unfortunately, those were canned. However, I know that they went on virtually, but because, you know, sometimes, you know, at that time, the MC is not really required. Well, you know, you kind of lose out there. But those are the ways of it. But I guess the positive line in going into it, because you've got myself, because I've got the skill set of not just being an MC, but also knowing the technical side of it, and of course the software side of it, is looking into creating a podcast, is looking at putting yourself a, you know, YouTube channel together. And yes, I have given a YouTube channel a go. I am thinking about a podcast and that, but that's once again, you know, I went down that track with the online radio station. So it's the same thing again. And the biggest thing around that for myself that I need to get myself back into is, of course, choice of consistency. Because that's the only thing about going online. That's when it becomes very siloed and very solo, because you're working by yourself in your own little bubble. Like you're actually creating your own little bubble. You're only connecting out with anyone, you know, unless you need them to be as manuhiri, but you are your drive, you are the producer, you are the content finder, you know, you're everything. So you need to have, for myself, I need to keep on reminding myself that, you know your worth, keep it consistent, make sure you always work with intent, make sure your actions, it's all of that. And as a business owner currently in the game, those are things, actually, believe it or not, I'm still teaching myself, e
Wonderful.
you know.
Wonderful. And you've got a great example. I mean, if you were to say what is a really important Māori example of an online emceeing episode, you've now got that example to show the world, to show New Zealand, hey, look, this is potentially how it could be done. So I'm picking there's going to be a few opportunities there for you. Got Vaughnie and Pete also for a bit of a party, so just pass it to Pete and then back to Vaughan.
Krystal, fantastic story, really enjoying it. Just kind of interested about the freezing works job at the start. It doesn't seem like a natural pathway to where you ended up. And
did you want to know, so how that actually happened, was that, you know, being, I guess, brought up in, how I was saying, takuao Māori, in a Māori environment. Well, whānau's huge. Whānau is actually a huge part of it, and that's how I ended up in there, because so as I was saying, I've got a beautiful freehold house here, and that's the reason why myself, my brother, and my sister, we went into an agreement. Like, look, I started a partnership way back then, and I should have learned then. They kind of reneged on the deal, and because they reneged on the deal, well, I had to make a decision. Was it my education and my career, or, you know, let's go with the investment that we went with? And I chose the investment. And so it may have taken me 10 years, but it took me 10 years to pay off my house, to make sure that I was financially free in that. And that was my gift to myself, basically, because, I was like, oh, I'll get this a house done, make sure I've got a car, you know, make sure I've got all these things, so that when I go back into what I truly wanted to do, I wouldn't have any hindrance of financial burden on me. I could just go ahead and just focus on the prize, and that's what I did. So
Wonderful.
But in saying that, though, Pete, working at the works, I learned some beautiful things there. I learned to be prompt. I learned to be not a bullshitter. You know, I tell you what, in the freezing works, they'll tell you to your face, and you know, and sometimes in this professional world, you've got to word yourself and be assertive and use all these kind of tupu, but in the freezing works, oh no, they'll tell you how it is, with all those beautiful, colourful metaphors behind it as well.
I'm pretty sure there's plenty of straight talk, which is pretty good. I think, like, so there's a lot of flowery stuff goes on, but straight talking can really get you on the straight and narrow. And you're talking about small business, but it seems along the way you've created small businesses consistently throughout your career, you know, through partnerships or whatever. So you're the second person today that said to me they've sort of realized after like a period of time, say 12 months, goodness me, I'm a small business owner. So, I mean, is that the revelation you had as well? Because this person sounded exactly like you, like, holy shit, I'm a small business owner.
It's pretty funny, you actually, yes, and just to talk about it, with the current mentoring program that I'm on with Kurawaka, that was something that we just realised, the whole 12 of us wahine last week as well. We were doing this exercise on what's the difference between an entrepreneur and a business owner. And as we were doing it, we were sort of categorising ourselves as the entrepreneur. And whenever we referenced anyone in the business, we would say they were this.
Yeah.
They were this type of people. And then our mentor Teresa goes, can you hear that? We're like, hear what? Like, yous are going, don't you see yourself in that category too? And then we were sort of like looking, going, oh yeah, that's right, we are in that category too, you know. So yeah, funny you mentioned that there. And then now, actually, Pete, now that you've mentioned it, yes, I guess looking over my lovely 15, 18 years of life, we have been doing a lot of business, mahi, just not really realising it until it's quite obvious and blatant to someone like yourself, brings it to the forefront, e te hoa.
I'm just listening to you thinking, shit, she's good at this.
Ka pai, Pete. Vaughnie, pātai tā.
Hey, Good question. Really enjoyed that, Pete. Hey, thanks a lot for that. Kia ora koutou. That was really awesome. Hey, what I love about your delivery too is that you talk fast, which is awesome. And I find that a lot of people stand in front of audiences these days, and actually they put you to sleep because of their tempo. They don't have any. So you bring a nice energy to this presentation. Which is awesome. The question, I'm not going to have a question for you. It's actually, I want to know your view. I'm interested in your view. But before I get on to that, Jace just mentioned before about big business versus small business. And I think one of the biggest mistakes that a lot of people think is that the small business community is actually a small big business, which it's not. Big businesses have operations manuals and HR, health and safety, all that. Small businesses just fly by the seat of their pants and make stuff up as they go along because we don't have the resources, right? And so, that's why they are two completely different beasts, and the lack of advocacy for small businesses is for that reason. We just don't have that. But in terms of getting on to wanting to know more about your view, I constantly toss and turn with the question, what is a Māori business? And sort of listening to you talk and many of our other people that we work with, we know that Māori are natural traders, but the way I have sort of seen it is that we have Te Reo Māori, and then we have this big machine that we're in. And, that's got the IRD and banks and trying to get funding and all that sort of stuff in it. And so all of the things that are really tough for Māori businesses. And I suppose for me, and then we have the government funding model, which comes with its conditions. So the Māori economy, to me, is actually not a Māori description. It's just a long distance view of bureaucrats. And so I believe we're still figuring it out, just like the treaty. We're still figuring it out after 182 years. So I guess the mic drop moment that I look for is the day that we can all clearly articulate what is a Māori business. And some of the kōrero we have here at HTK is there's different types, different categories and that sort of stuff. But in terms of, the Māori value, I'm a big guy that goes by gut feel. I listen to my puku. If I don't, so I'm less analysis and more, if I don't feel good about it, it doesn't happen. Resistant, stubborn, cautious. Can you sort of see, the ultimate Māori business thriving inside the machine? I think we've got examples of it happening, but I don't think it's the norm. I think, more Māori businesses don't get to the potential they can to get to, and that's why obviously PMP is there and things like that. So yeah, I just getting back to it. It's not a question. It's more just interested in your view of the future of, our young coming through to be that natural Māori trader functioning inside the machine.
Yeah. Love, actually really appreciate that Pātai, and thank you for sharing that kōrero with us there, Vaughan. And I'd love to share my view on that, because yes, that is something that has been on my mind since engaging, or since making that decision on coming into it. And like I was saying before, when I was talking about kaupapa versus business, but that's what I was talking about. Where does Māori fit into business? And one thing that I've always remembered is like those 4 po that we have, I guess, within the business line, which is where we look at environmental, social, cultural, and economic. Those 4. I call them the 4 po. You've got po and uara, all that. But with those 4 po, and for me personally, it was like, oh well, how do we flip those 4 po into a Māori perspective or aspect, and how, because if those are the 4 main po that drive a business alongside other how do we what would those look like from a Māori perspective? And even in there, and because straight away the default, which I've noticed in a lot of I guess Māori charitable businesses and that here, is that we use those tangas, manaakitanga, whanaungatanga aroha, and unfortunately whānau, e te whānau, those just, I believe, those just don't work. Those are not going to work in a business sense, because the tangas are just not going to work. You have to be much more specific in that way. So it's about feeling around, so it is a kind of an ongoing kōrero with that, and wānanga and that. But one thing I would say, definitely, I wouldn't go down the tangas street. You'll have to be more specific, and you need them to be circulating, of course. What does an environmental po look like from a Māori perspective and in a business sense? What would it look like, where would we even start? And to be brutally honest too, we as Māori people, we need to actually go back to our roots. See, the more that I start to research on who we are from in the past, and start to reflect on that's why we act and why we are today, that's where we need to go. It's a hard and an unfortunate thing where we say, oh yeah, here we go, we're going to look back into the past and what our tipuna do. But honestly, if we want it to be a successful, because that's how our tipuna operated. They operated their pātu wata successfully, even though it was quite, the rangatira was running the show, but that's what you had a CE running the show. You've got to still think like that in that business sense. So I'm saying the more we reflect more on our past, and I mean pre-European whānau, like this is pre-European days, on how rangatira acted, tohunga acted in that way, because they were functioning past sites. The business was the past site, we were, you've got to start looking at it in that way. So yeah, that's how I answer it. I'm still researching it myself and trying to find what a Māori business would look like, particularly in today's world, because that's it's today's world, which is against it.
Awesome.
Great metaphor.
Thank you.
Accommodating to the Māori outlook or the Māori perspective, really, because we have so many kāwai or so many hononga.
Let's hold on to that metaphor. The rangatira and the pā metaphor is a good mental picture for us to sort of just to stay with for this evening. And so
because to wata style, that's how businesses operated too. So that's where you need to fit your po in those areas and go that way. But it's of course articulating what those roles are and what are those benefits that are going to come out of it for today's businesses. And then once again, everybody's business is very unique in itself. So you can't just have one model to fit everybody. This is going to work.
Ka pai, Johnny, you got a pātai too? We'll head over to Johnny.
Hi, kia ora. Kia ora, Krystal. I love hearing about your journey into business and how it was almost by default. A lot of Pākehā Māori that I've kind of come across have find themselves in similar situations where they are, pursuing a passion, and all of a sudden, they find themselves running a business, which can often, put some financial pressure on the passions themselves. So what I'm wanting to know is, what advice would you give to someone who sort of finds themselves in business without too much experience in the game? You kind of touched on some of the mentoring you've benefited from and sort of how you've adapted to COVID and stuff like that, but I'd just like to hear your thoughts.
Tēnā koe rehua. First of all, I'd always say, know your why. Know your why. Why are you here? Why are you pursuing this? And to know your why is to actually turn that mirror around and look at yourself and go, what do you bring? What do you bring to the game, Krystal? Ask yourself that, because when I asked myself that question, te taia te whakautu, I had no answer. I was like, e aua. I don't know why I'm in this ara otira. That's why I love takuao Māori e Huama. I think having some kind of identity, tuākiritanga within yourself is going to help you in that as well, because knowing ko wai koe and having some kind of a whakapapa behind you helps you in those real distinct times of business, like those real downtime e Huama, because business can impact you not only in a financial sense, but it can impact you in a mental sense. It can impact you in an emotional sense as well. And we need to have techniques and methods on how to keep ourselves going, because business is like, to me, my business is just a mechanism out there that helps us survive in today's world. But you, the tangata, you are the force, you are the source, the modi of that business. And if your modi is not in great form, your business is not going to be in great form, e wā mā. So make sure you start looking after yourself first. Make sure that your good old tapawhā, your taha tinana, your taha wairua, your taha hinengaro, and your whānau is working for you. And then just to touch off on that, whānau, Māori mā, yes. Our whānaus, we need to come down to the whakaaro of, one, are we in this game for our family, or are you in the game for yourself? Now that's something that I've had to make, a big make a decision on. And and I've spoken with my family. Thank goodness I come from an understanding whānau, but they know that, hey, I can't drop my life at the drop of a hat for you fellas because sister can't figure out her whatevers. No, you can't let little hindrance, come along too. So e wā mā, know your role, know what you're up to in this game, because it's either going to swallow you whole, and that's the real, or you're going to just stream on through. So tuatahi, no ko wai koe te tuatahi, ko wai au. Finds those mechanisms, whether it be journaling or aha rānei, to keep you going into this mahi, because for us as Māori, we've got so much going on in our lives, and we want to be this massive business owner, this massive successful business or entrepreneur, but we've got so much coming at us here. We need to know, how do we combat, or how do we deal with these things as they come through, so that our business is running through, and making sure your Māori is 100. So I may have not answered it much for you, Johnny, but that's how I get through.
No, that's awesome. Awesome. Thank you.
Wait, Tina, we say quite a bit here. You're not your business. You can sort of get trapped in this idea that, okay, I'm selling Te Reo today, or I'm selling emceeing. No, that's not really you. That's just one of the things you do. But you touch on really something important, which is your Māori. Like, what vibe you bring. What vibe do you actually bring to everything that you do? And and have a look at yourself at that. And if it's slow, and if it's not there, revisit and say, do I really want to spend the next 10,000 hours of my life doing something where my Māori is halfway? I don't think you do. And so, thank you for reminding us about that. What do we bring? What are we actually bringing? And what is our life force in this? You also got Vaughan to describe something that we've been trying to get out of him for months, which was a self-reflection of him saying that he was resistant, he was stubborn, and he was cautious. So thank you for getting that finally out of Vaughan as some of his characteristic traits. I mean, we've been trying to get that out of him for months. So you just cracked into him. So he sort of self-confessed like that. We've also got another question. Are you single, Kiino? And are you Kiino? Well, I don't know what they're trying, don't know what they mean by that. But
exactly. I've got a few notifications popping up on the side here going, who the hell?
So who the hell is that?
I want to answer that and relate it to a bit to the business side of things. So yes, I am single. I've actually been single for majority of my life by choice, e wā mā. And very shortly I'll be celebrating, believe it or not, my 35th birthday. And so when I say majority of my life, I mean quite a fair bit of my time. And why is that? Is that because I never believed that I needed the security of another partner to make me a success, with whatever that success may have looked like. At the moment, well, the success is looking like that I'm high profile as an MC, and now I'm taking on the reins of trying to make a successful business as well. And being single has helped me on that waka, because, don't get me wrong, yes, I've had a few partners along the way, but I realized in myself there that, hey, I'm not going to find me a good partner while I'm trying to sort myself out. So once I get myself sorted, which I have, when I've been on that waka before, well, now I've become an intimidation. Well, this is the kōrero to a lot of tāne out there. And while that's unfortunate, so to anyone out there who may be joining us tonight, and if you think that you can match the caliber of this wahine here, then no mai hara mai, ne? And this is where it's at. And I encourage more Māori wahine to be and have this type of confidence. It's taken me years to get to this point. And I encourage more wahine Māori to live the life as a single woman, because we find ourselves that we need to commit or have someone there to make us feel secure, make us feel worthy, make us to feel beautiful. Yet in the end, we've got all those tools here, right here in ourselves. We just need to pull them out and actually own it. And because of me doing that many years ago, it's helped me become who I am today and take on the challenges that I enjoy doing daily.
That's a wonderful way to close our evening. A wonderful reminder, Krystal, about, you got to start the self. You have to sort of back yourself in this. It's not just about business. It is your life, and thank you for reminding us about what it's like to have that strength, not just to sort of fall into a default relationship. And that is a wonderful way to sort of close our evening, just as a tohu out to everybody listening this evening. Don't fall into a partnership, don't fall into a business, don't fall into someone else's agenda. Enjoy your own tapu and make sure that you protect it, and that you keep that for yourself. And I love the fact that you actually spent all those years paying off your own mortgage. I mean, that would have been your best business experience. Very few people have been able to achieve that in their whole lifetime, let alone before 25, 26 years of age. So thank you for sharing that story, and thank you for sharing all of your experiences along the way, from Te Wharepatu Miti, from Te Atahau, me Te Kura, and right through to Te Reo Irirangi o Ngāti Kahungunu, and the many ups and downs of Māori business, kaupapa driven and otherwise. And so thank you so much for sharing those stories. There is many chapters still to go on Kiino Krystal Edwards Fund, and so we're looking forward to hearing those. We're looking forward to enjoying and coming along the road with you. We want to hear a little bit more about your new release for next year, so love to have you back to talk a little bit about that. But on behalf of all of us in the Poari, thank you for this evening. Ora tēnā koe te rangatira me te tiaki tō tapu me tō o Pukenga Nui. Ki tēnā, ki tēnā, ki tēnā. Te reo, te whakapāho, te whakahiki, te mauri o te tangata, ēnei āhuatanga katoa, e mihi tonu mātou ki a koe. Me te pai o Ngāti Kahungunu e tira manama mai nei I tēnei pō. Okay, kia ora everybody. Going to close with our karakia, and thank you again to our visit, Kiino. Thank you to everybody for coming in and enjoying this night with us on Wednesday, and we'll see you all. Hei tērā wiki, hei te wera rei tū mai nei. Nō reira, kia tau, nā manakitanga te minaroki roki tēnā ki te no tātou. Ko whakarongo mai mātou ki te pai o te tapu me nā Māori kia kahara tātou te Māori. Te Māori o te tangata. Kia pua waitia ki tēnā, ki te aroaro o te tangata. Kia hikitia mai tā mātou Māori. Kia pai ai tā tātou neki hanga whakamua. E mihi tonu mātou ki hēnei kōrero o te pō. Nō reira kia tau, kia tātou katoa. Toi nā kupu, toi tau, toi nai tātou, turuturu o whitika mau. Kia tēnā.
Tīna.
Haumi huie.
Tai.
Tō mari, fellas. Thank you.
Whare e wha mā.
Yep, go ora.
Thank you.